Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Welcome to The Decision, the EO Nashville podcast by and for entrepreneurs as we live life as an entrepreneur, navigating all the storms, trying to make it look like we're ducks, smooth on top and, paddling like hell underneath the water.
I don't really want to look like a duck if that's what you're talking about.
That just came to my mind.
I like this. Keep going.
No, I think I'm
yes,
done.
and more. Tell us more, Eric.
Welcome to EO, where we're trying to look like ducks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so right before we pressed record, Ben and I were talking about drummers, and I'm just all excited today to have Ben here with us. But my partner in crime, Mr. Robert Hartline.
Thank you, Eric. Good to be here with you and excited to paddle around the lake with you in our little duck feet.
Yeah, like ducks.
Our guest today, Mr. Ben Stix with BE Hive, creating all those delicious vegan meats for that community. Welcome.
That's right. Thank you for having me.
We first met when you were a prospect for EO, and I was a little jealous of your last name, being a drummer.
Oh yeah,
a mutual drummer.
It's a real last name. That's like one of the worst things is having to tell another drummer that my name is Ben Stix. And then being like, oh, that's a cool name, bro. Like it's a nickname, huh? Think you're cool? Think you're good? It's like, no, it's my real last name.
It's not a Steel Panther thing.
I'm sorry.
It's real.
The guy that married my sister years ago, didn't believe me until he was at our dad's house and saw a certificate that said Gabe Stix. He's like, your name's really Ben Stix? I was like, I fucking told you so. Am I allowed to cuss?
Now, did that keep you on the drummer path because of that last name? Did you feel like you were forced to stay in this drummer role?
No, I've always really gravitated towards drums, right? So I started playing trombone in 4th grade and I was not good at it. And I don't really have that type of ear. And all my friends played snare drum in elementary school and I was always fiddling with it. And then I remember in 6th or 7th grade, I was playing trombone and the snares were right behind me in concert band. And I remember particularly one day they were messing this one part up. And I was just like, how are you guys messing this up? I could do this right now. I just thought, I was like, let me up there. I understand what they're talking about. How are you messing this up? And from that day on, I was like, I went up to the director and I was like, hey, I want to learn how to play drums. So I would stay after school and play drums. And I just started learning because I was just gravitated towards it. So now, I'm just always a fidgeter, a tapper. That's the way my brain works. So from that, I kind of just went in and that was my thing. So from 7th grade on, I was like, I want to be a drummer and play music. And I actually saw Hootie and the Blowfish a long time ago. I went to my first show was Beach Boys and then Aaron Neville. And then the first show that I wanted to go to, I was like, Dad, take me to Hootie and the Blowfish. I remember leaving that concert being like, those guys had so much fun on stage. They were having so much fun. I just remember being like, I want to have that much fun. And then from that point on, I was like, I'm going to do that.
Was it that I'm going to do that as a profession or do that as for fun?
Both. But I've always had a dream of being a professional drummer, and I moved down to Tennessee right after high school to play music and went to MTSU to do music business. And I hated that because I was like, I want to play music. And the music business is not about music. It's about business and selling yourself and doing all this lame stuff. So I was like, I'm just going to play drums. So I just toured for after that 10 years, basically.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
well, and then as at the end of my touring, I was building the BE Hive as a pop-up, and that kind of took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah. How has music influenced your business career?
A lot. I find myself touring now and doing food shows, right? So we're putting food in people's mouths in different states to be able to, because you have to try that. But because I'm in the vegan game, there's this huge stigma against veganism. So just like music, it's about how do you communicate to a crowd your passion, your vision, whatever you're feeling. And it's now I'm trying to communicate what's the importance about vegan food? Why is BE Hive different from like Beyond or Impossible or any of these big VC funded, scientist driven type vegan foods? And like, why is it important that people change the way they eat in a way that doesn't cause them to get defensive and be like, I eat meat because of this, or be like, vegans are assholes. Why would I want to do this? There's like this huge defense mechanism when you say you're in veganism, or you make vegan food, or this food is vegan. People are like, gross. So it's like, so that whole music thing and being able to kind of communicate that and then build it really organically is kind of given me the skills to kind of pop up and do things. And it's like the whole BE Hive started throwing parties and doing pop-ups. And that's kind of like what, playing rock music in a DIY sense is. It's like playing house shows and playing different parties and being able to bring people together for like one cause. So it's crazy. And then like some of the best performing people in my organization are also touring musicians, because you learn how to like take something that you're really passionate about and like grind and go crazy. And it's like the other day I just drove to Cincinnati at 4:30 p.m. after working all day, and then like slept and did an all day show and then had dinner and got back. It's kind of that crazy life where it's just, and then you're up the next morning and go.
I think the average person thinks the touring musician
has it easy.
They just perform for an hour and a half and then they're done.
But half the reason people break up, bands break up, is because of all the other time spent. You got to think like that's definitely the best parts, playing music on stage for like an hour and a half. But it's also so hard because it's like you wake up early and you travel and like you got to do this and you don't get any sleep and you're partying or you're not partying, and then you got to hang with people for hours and hours and hours. A lot of it's just waiting. Yeah, so that's why some people will like, they only want you to be are you a good vibe? Are you a good hang? And if you're not, I don't even care if you're the best drummer. Like, you make my life miserable because I got to sit next to you for 23 hours out of the day.
Well, in a lot of ways, I think that touring musician lifestyle is analogous to an entrepreneur's life.
Yeah.
Because people see you on stage, they see the success, they don't see all the bullshit that you went through to get there, that you have to go through all the time.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
But you're also like a CEO, keeping time.
As
a drummer, right? And as a leader, and you're like getting your team to go in the direction that you can literally change the direction at any time by the way you play.
Well, that's the interesting thing about drummers, is that most people don't realize, but the drummers are running the show.
Yeah.
Like
we're
100%.
The quarterback, right?
Basically, 100%. It's like I have to start the song off at the right tempo, very like confidently. If I miss a beat or I falter and I'm off the rails, like literally people will stop dancing, they'll stop moving. Like you're nodding your head, but then it just falls off. They're like, the bass player, the drummer, or the singer, they can drop out for a bar or two. But if I drop out, everything's done.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and as the CEO type of thing, like I'm running the ship too. And I don't mind kind of being behind the scenes. That's what I like being about drummers. Like I can wear shorts. I don't have to dance or have these moves, but like what I'm doing is entertaining, but I'm running the ship. And I was even always the guy that like loaded the trailer, and I was like kind of more on that type of sense anyway, but it's always like the drummer for some reason. Like you probably know what I'm talking about. It's just like, I play Tetris better than anyone else. I'm kind of just like,
when someone applies, do you like, you look at the resume, do you like skip all the experience? You're like, okay, are you in a band or did you play music? I mean, do you have to go there?
I do always ask if they're a musician. Not to like only include them, but like, it gets harder and harder to like build a crew of musicians because they're always touring all the time. So it's like, can I rely on you?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I still do that. With the sales type of thing, it's like, I have noticed it kind of helps if you're like a musician, because I'm telling the story in the sales, and that kind of helps.
But you're also you're improvising all the time.
Oh, I improvise the entire time. Like, it's funny. My interview process is like, right now I've like started using Culture Index. So I won't interview them if they're not a fit for the position. And then I kind of just go in and I'm like, who are you? What's your deal? What do you want? And I really just check vibe, and I just go off a conversation and I wing it. That might not be the best approach, but that's what I. But
it's a skill that you can amplify over time. Like I joined a band recently. We only play like backyard parties.
Yeah.
There's no set list. I have no idea what we're going to play.
Oh, is it all improvisation?
It's the lead singer just starts playing a song, and I'm like, and I have to figure it out. And sometimes I don't know, and the lead guitarist will go, "It's a shuffle beat." It's like,
okay, cool.
And
It'd
then
be helpful to know that before we started the song.
exactly. He has promised that he's going to start creating at least a catalog of songs that we will play that I can be confident in.
That makes sense. That's step one.
Yeah, exactly.
What am I doing here right now?
What was the ultimate catalyst to start BE Hive?
So, the way the story kind of goes is that like I was in a band called Born Empty, right? And so we used the BE, and I joined that band. This was a band that was like, this was their high school band. And we used the BE as just like an abbreviation. We would just like as, BE, Born Empty, cool. And we all lived in a house together, and they called it the BE Hive. And we would start throwing vegan potlucks at the house in like 2008. And so we would make food. Everyone that came over would bring food, but it'd be vegan. And there'd be this whole plate of vegan food. And ours was kind of always the best. We were just really good at it. But sometimes there'd be like 80 some people at this party with like a bunch of vegan food back in 2008 in Nashville, which is like veganism is not cool at this point. And that was kind of the basis of it. So like we would throw these potlucks when we were home, and then on the road, we'd be like, hey, on stage, like, we're looking for a place to stay. We'll cook you breakfast if we can sleep on your floor or your couch. And so we would show up. Sometimes there would be a mansion with like a fully stocked cabinet and fridge. So we were like, oh, this is cool. And then sometimes we'd have to bleach everything just to be able to make a burrito because there wasn't even salt or anything. It was just gross. So it's like we'd stay in some really nice places, some horrible places, but we figured out how to make food on the road. And that was basically the catalyst to start BE Hive. So we moved out of the house, and I'm still touring. I'm playing with this other funk band, Space Capone. And like, I did a bike ride in LA, which was from San Francisco to LA. And this is kind of inspirational. And I was working at Wild Cow, which is like a vegetarian restaurant. They're closed on Tuesdays. And the entrepreneur in me was like, why are you closed on Tuesdays? People keep coming up to the door. Like, Tuesday's a random day. And so eventually I thought, hey, like, what if I just threw a pop-up here? What if I did a BE Hive buffet, $10 all you can eat? I'll bring all the people in. I'll pay for all the food. I'll give you, the host restaurant, a percentage of the sales. I'll give a percentage of the sales to a nonprofit, and then I'll take the rest. And that was the beginning of the BE Hive, basically.
Wow. And the Wild Cow just closed, didn't they?
Yeah. So they moved locations like right before COVID, and then they just closed.
Yeah. Hey, here's a question I've always been curious about. Like, so many of these spiritual people like are vegans. Why is there a connection between that? Help me. I should know the answer to this.
Probably because you're pretty spiritual, right?
Yeah.
Well, because there's a couple of reasons why one might go by a plant-based diet or be vegan. One is the environmental factors, right? Just industrialized farming. This is kind of where I live. Like, I'm anti-industrialized animal agriculture. Like, vegan 101 is that the animal industry produces about 18%. You could say 11 to 18%, but about 18% of all greenhouse emissions worldwide, which is more than every single automobile on Earth combined, right? Which is crazy. That's why they're like tearing down the Amazon rainforest. That's like there's so many reasons where it's like, in my opinion, you can't be pro-environment and eat meat, right? You just can't. But people don't know that. So there's that reason. And then the other reason would be probably the spiritual reason is like for the animals, right? So it's like, if you believe in energy, if you believe in the transference of this, it's like, we've set these systems up where you were just basically slaughtering and killing mass amount of animals in a very inhumane, unhealthy way to feed our population, which I'm not hardcore vegan in the sense that like I don't think humans shouldn't utilize and use animals, right? I think that's the problem with hardcore veganism is that it kind of says that like it kind of denies the fact that you humans utilize animals to get to where we are today. There's like a way to have a sustainable life form where we use the earth and not maybe to our advantage, but like in a sustainable way where everything can flourish. And what we've gone past that. So it's like, I think probably one of the most healthy diets is to moderately consume some animal protein. But the way Americans assume, like the way Americans like eat meat is like way too much. And then also the amount of food that we waste is way too much. So it's become this like this industry that's like completely about profits and making a chicken as fast as possible and then pumping it full of hormones and antibiotics and then it's depleting the soil and it's just rude. It's just like a really bad thing. And then you got to look at like talk about spirituality, right? Most people would never eat a dog because we love dogs because they're so special. They're so smart. They're so snuggly. Like pigs are smarter than dogs, right? And we just eat bacon like it's like there's no tomorrow. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? And so like that type of thing. People love their horses and their cats, but like, what's the difference between like a cat? Like look into a cow's eyes. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a conscious being in there, and we're just like whipping around, slaughtering them like frivolously. And pigs. There's like plants in North Carolina that slaughter 40,000 pigs a day. It's a lot. That's just like one plant. So it's like getting into the spirituality of that. It's like, is that right? Especially when we just are an unhealthy society, an unhealthy public, and we're obese and we don't need that. And also like we waste so much food.
So you're essentially a scientist when it comes to food, because you're manufacturing food that someone's going to be in someone's deli somewhere in the country, right?
Deli, pizza shop.
And so how much of your energy is in the design of new tastes? And is it a focus on meats that taste like meat? I mean, how does that, or were you trying to create a flavor that anybody would love?
Well, the thing about what I'm doing is that it has to be like really accessible, right? So for people to take vegan food seriously, it's got to taste like up to par with the analog version, for example, right? So if I'm going to say, hey, here's like a really awesome Philly cheesesteak or pepperoni pizza, and here's a vegan one, it's like no one wants to eat like a vegan pizza that's like subpar. You know what I'm saying? Why would you want to do that? Like, especially when you have the option to eat a really good real pizza. So having the accessibility to be able to have a really good version of that is key. What do I spend my time doing? Like right now where I'm at is that I've built this infrastructure and this production facility that I'm trying to scale. And I've built it on very tasty, indulgent, accessible recipes and options that I've learned. So like I started doing the buffet, right? So I did that for 1.5 years, and every Tuesday, different menu each week. I learned through that what people liked, right? So people would go up kind of skeptical. They put a little bit of this, a little bit of everything on their plate. And then they'd go back for these 3 things. And then they would have these like, what I really learned from that was they were like, dude, I didn't think eating vegan food could be like tasty and possible. I didn't think it would fill me up. And then I just ate so much and I don't feel like I need to go take a nap right now. So I learned what people liked. And then from that, people were like, I would buy the seitan. I was like, okay. So I started making that. And then I started throwing more events and I started throwing the deli. So now I have I have 13 years of experience of like, what do people like and what resonates? When I throw a special out there and like I sell 300 of them in a weekend, that thing's going to end up on the menu because it just does so well. So I've learned how to do that. So right now my time isn't so much in fine tuning the recipes because I've kind of built that right now. Although that will be a big, I won't be able to let that like slip because you always need to keep innovating and changing. But right now it's like, how do I take the recipes that I have and scale them to get the cost of goods down, to be able to actually push it out and be able to build a profitable manufacturing system, that's been the difficult part for me because I grew so small and organically. And then now I have this like manufacturing facility that's like expensive. And until I hit scale in that, it puts me at like a really tight cash crunch, and like position where like I'm currently not profitable. However, once I hit, that little point, and there's room to be like really profitable, and there's no really ceiling on where I can go with that. So that's my focus right now is like cost of goods and scalability within that.
But you're wearing a lot of hats.
Oh, I wear all the hats.
Is there a hat that you love wearing the most?
Growth. That's kind of what I've been learning. Like, I know you're like a Dan Sullivan guy, so it's like kind of finding that unique ability. I am building a team right now to be able to kind of try to handle that. And so it's like my year has been like investment, sales, and output. So those are my like 3 focuses. And I'm like halfway through a fundraising round. And I'm building a sales team that we're just going to start onboarding in November to really get them on board. So January, they're just ready to fly. And then I'm working hand in hand with my production team right now to be able to make sure that they can handle whatever I output and then get the right equipment to be able to really automate as much as possible humans out of bags and being able to triple basically what we're outputting in a given shift to get the cost of goods down. So, you can't scale failure. So I need to build the output system that can handle it, and then the sales system that will push it so I can really just be at the helm to grow and be the rep and really work on the larger accounts and the larger growth vision of it. So that's kind of what's been fun for me. I don't really like, I'm not the type of guy that wants to go to the office every single day from 9 to 5 that like is just on my computer. Like I need to be moving, and
I think you're probably really good at popping into some deli and be like talking to the owner and just like, that's your ideal. Who is your ideal customer?
Right now, in a general sense, a lot of people would think it's like, well, how many vegans are in the market, or how many vegan restaurants are around? And that's not the ideal market. The ideal market are the flexitarians that just want to eat non-meat or non-dairy like a couple times a week, So that's like 60-70% of the market are those flexitarians that run the market. And that way, it's that one person that might be lactose intolerant, that might eat real pepperoni, but they just want a vegan cheese, or they don't want to eat real meat today, but they really want that steak and cheese sandwich or something. So it's looking for a more conscious option, while still being able to feed their taste buds and like be indulgent in like what they want, because we all like to eat, especially when you have the ability to eat something flavorful.
Now, after starting, what was the biggest obstacle that you had to navigate, where you had to make a big decision?
Like one of the biggest ones? I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is not putting one of the employees in a position that, like if they're the best at packing or on the line, and you put them in a management position, but they're not a manager, like that's kind of, I've had to get rid of some people that way because I just set them up for failure. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like, you're great at what you do, but then I put you in a management position and you just like didn't really flourish in that role because that's just not your specialty. So I've kind of learned that.
It's hard to put them back.
You can't. Yeah, you have to like downgrade them, And also at that point, if they're managing a team and the reason you're firing them is because they're not a great manager, they've already done their damage, and the employees don't want to really work with them anymore. So that's been some of the hardest things I've had to do, just kind of get rid of some people. I'm like a really friendly guy, and I like start to get in there. So like getting rid of some like friends within the company has been really hard. I'd say the hardest part of the business that I've hit was the last 2 years. This year has been like the last 6 months are okay, but like COVID hit, and it was actually not that bad. Like I was freaking out for a second, but it was like my motives and goals were very focused. No one else was doing anything, so I didn't have any FOMO, and like we blew up. We like 3 times over COVID. So it was just very like, okay, here's a problem. How do I get over it? Cool. Let's go. It was very easy. But then in the process, like I built out the production facility. I had that place rented out on a lease signed before COVID hit. So it like, I was under construction and then COVID hit and I was like, what the hell? We had to finish construction during COVID. I had to get people out of my tiny deli because we had to start doing night shifts to like separate people and like social distance. So once I got that open and then we ran out of space again and I got into all this other, so I just got in, like I say, I got into like manufacturing kind of by accident. And that was hard because then it started to get just really expensive.
It's a lot more complicated business too.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to
even scale. I think though, but I think a deli in a market is also complicated because you got a lot of products that are going out.
Yeah, but it's technically easy, right? So running a restaurant is a pain in the ass, right? Sure. But it's like you make a sandwich and you sell it for $14 and you get your money right then. Okay. That's like just make a really good sandwich, right?
Right.
To me, that's easy. And then I've like hired a team to like run the deli. But then you get into this production thing. It's like, how do you make this hit scale on a completely self-funded budget? You jump up from like, oh yeah, my rent used to be, $3,000-$4,000 over here. And now this building is like $20,000 a month. It's like, what is going on? And then, I was forced to buy like a $40,000 metal detector. It doesn't help me out at all. It just detects metal. That's all it does. And I was like,
scan product in it.
Yeah, everything goes through a metal detector now. And I have to get it to get the certification. And I don't have the money for it. So I have to I have to finance it. So I'm paying, so it's like a $32,000 machine turns into $40,000 and I pay this amount. It's like, okay, but I have to have it, but it doesn't help me out at all. Besides getting a certification to be able to be a big boy. So that has been hard dealing with trying to, I guess that's the answer to your question is like, well, one of the hardest ones was like, being stubborn about not bringing in outside funds and trying to keep it there, trying to keep it just me. But I hit a breaking point kind of like, okay, all my credit cards are maxed out. I need to pull this out there. Like earlier this year in probably March, April, like I drained my entire savings just to cover a week of payroll. And then like, I didn't know what I was going to do by the next week because so I had to find other money over here. So it was that type of thing to get it afloat and trying to be like, well, am I doing anything wrong? I'm going broke. Like we're not profitable. Like what am I doing wrong? And then so trying to figure that out. And I was like, okay, I need to raise money. I need to do this. I need to get this and sell it and then put people around smarter than me and build this. And that was kind of the hardest thing. So I got like, close to like almost had like a panic attack this year because I was like, okay, here's my last. I had some money over here and I had some money over here and I had this reserves in my savings account. And then I was just like, got to the point where like payroll's coming out tomorrow. Here we go. That was my last lifeline. And I went to the gym and I was like, I couldn't work out. I couldn't do anything. Yeah. I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to run. And then 2 minutes in, I was like, nope, can't do this. I'm just really antsy. And I just went and sat in the sauna and that like helped. But it was just like, okay, I just got to figure this shit out.
Did I feel that? I feel that panic. I've been in that panic. I know exactly. And I think everyone that is listening to this have been in that situation. I remember calling my dad on Thursday, like begging for $10K to make payroll. And he said no. And he was going to help me. And I was like, but it fucking worked out somehow. I have no idea. I have no idea how that fucking magic happened.
Well, and this is, a scale is a word we throw around all the time, but that's it in action, right?
It's and it's crazy to be like in a position where like the only way that I will survive is if I scale, if I get it, and if I grow bigger. Like, and when I talk to other people like in the food manufacturing industry or manufacturing industry, they're just like, oh, where are you at? Where are your numbers? And they're like, you just got to get through it. You got to get to like 3 to 5 million just on the production before you can even be comfortable. And it's like, okay, fuck. How do I do that? Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was probably one of the hardest decisions I've had to make was like, okay, I'm going to actually raise money.
What have you learned about raising money so far?
Yeah.
I'm going to hope that this is the right answer, is that at least for me right now, is that I need to get it from the right people. And so hopefully,
like partnership opportunities / they know the business. They know
where I'm at and what I've wanted to do. And hopefully that this decision that I can say like on the ass end of this conversation in a year from now will be the right decision, was getting it from people that understand what I'm doing, from individual donors that like are on my team that'll help me.
You mean investors?
Investors. Yes.
Yeah.
They're not donors.
Hopefully it's not a
Investors.
donation.
Well, I'm just saying like, basically not VC.
Right. Yeah. I'm understand. But they also kind of, you want people to love the brand.
They need to, right? If you're like, I want people to like, be behind what I'm doing and see the vision and see the passion behind it. And that it's like, is going to also like make money, but also like be good for the world. You know what I'm saying?
It's something that comes up to me, and I don't know how you feel about this with EO, because I wish there was a better way for, hey, I'm growing my brand. I need an investor. How could we allow that message to make it to the 350 other EO members that would want to invest money in something in Nashville, Tennessee, and someone that they would like to, hang out with / see their money do something fun. Like,
so that actually came up in a conversation yesterday with one of my investors, and he was like, is there like a fundraising portal or room or something like that? And I was like, I don't think there is. Like when I've talked about it, it's like, oh, okay, so just reach out to the community and be like, hey, can I get an experience share about fundraising, and see if you can find people that way rather than a direct ask. But he said in YPO, they do have a room or a board or something like that where it's like, hey guys, like check out this fundraising opportunity.
There's one in EO.
Is there?
Yeah. And I think it's on WhatsApp, but it's the Deal Network. I know, somebody in my forum will know.
Yeah.
I can hook you up.
Yeah, I would love to do that, because that's been one of the hardest things for me, is like, I can sell it. I can send you my deck and talk about it and get you to be like, that's fucking cool. Whether you're going to give me money or not, like that's a whole nother step, but I'm good at that. But what's been hard for me is trying to get into the network of those people. Cause I come from like the DIY, like rock and roll background doing that. So I've been trying to just surround myself with people that are smarter than me, that are also that are driven and they understand like what I'm doing. So I can also learn and grow to them, but also like surround myself with, high net worth people because I want to join that realm. And then also like right now, I also need some money.
For those of you listening, if you're if you like vegan food, Ben's your guy.
Or just doing cool shit and and want to like make a difference in the world.
That'd be a fun EO experience to go see how the fake sausage is made.
Yeah, if you can come check it out.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'll like allow a video of it fully, but I'll give you a tour. But it's a weird balance, because part of me is like, hey, should I show everyone how to do this? Because the average Joe isn't gonna steal the idea and run with it. It's just like some of those other people, like our pepperoni is really good. That's like what drives everything. So I try to keep that recipe and process really, really close to home, Well,
I don't think a lot of people understand what food manufacturing even looks like.
Oh yeah.
From the soup to nuts to, because it gets really complicated.
It's very complicated. And also very simple at the same time, but it's complicated. And you have to like follow a format of like things come out and it's like 200 degrees. So you have like 2 to 4 hours to get it to 70 degrees. And then you have another 2 hours to get it to 40 degrees, and it has to sit there because like bacteria grows in like certain environments. And so you have to kind of log everything, and it's kind of a wild thing. And everyone's wearing hairnets and beard nets and like looks like a science factory in there.
So since joining EO, how has Ben changed? How are you?
How have I changed?
Yeah, how have you?
One of my favorite things that I've started to learn and get into, and I think EO helped to start it, was like the communication aspect, right? Probably started with the whole Gestalt thing. Being able to communicate in a way that's like, well, maybe this even started with the veganism thing, right? Because so for a long time ago, I was like, you can be that militant vegan, but that doesn't work and people get real defensive. So how do you like soft touch like an idea to start a conversation? So that was like a little bit more solidified in the EO conversation, getting into like culture index, getting into I even signed up for like Skillway and had Sale Coach. And the first thing I learned was like, okay, how do you read this and like communicate in a way that gets what you want? And then I'm becoming a boss, more of a boss to all my employees. So I have to communicate and get what I want out of them with like a gentle touch, but also like respect and trying to get them motivated. Right. So I would say, I hope I've become a better leader, and been able to look into my structures as a leader and someone who grows teams within the business. Like, I think I've become a better business person, and I really like the actual forums and like the kind of the format and the community and the being able to really touch on the 5% type of thing, and just like open it up and have a confidential circle. Like, I went out with my friends to Asheville a couple weeks ago from high school buddies I haven't seen in like 10 years. And I was like, asked like Colton in my group to give me like a little exercise so we could do like this rapid catch up. And like, so I did that, and like, that was really cool. They were really hesitant about it. They're like, fuck this, man, we're not doing this. And then I got them to do it, and all of them were like, you have 10 minutes to talk. Some of them talked for like 25 minutes. And I was like, wow, this is cool. Yeah.
It's kind of weird to try to get people to open up that 5%. That is not easy. That is not everyone is open to crossing that bridge.
Yeah. Not everybody's ready to take that mask off.
Right.
Yeah. Especially with friends.
Right. And I think what I've learned a little bit from EO, but also that experience was like, if you start off, the person starting off, and you like just get into some vulnerability and like you show it how it's done, then they're like, oh, well, shit. Like, once you start opening the floodgates, like they're like, well, shit, I'll talk about this. We're in a comfortable setting anyway. So I like to dig into that a lot.
So if you were sitting in front of a new entrepreneur, just joined EO, what would some guidance you'd give them so they'd have their
one who just joined EO, so they're actually like they hit day one, they hit the marks.
Yeah. What advice would you help them with to really navigate and own their EO experience?
Meet as many people as you can and kind of network and just talk. Yeah. I think that's one of the coolest things, is being able to like just meet people that are doing the same things that you're doing in some sense, and learning and just networking, right? Like the people that I've met through EO from my forum, but also outside, it's just really nice to like run into them and then be able to talk and then have really good conversations. Like, even if like when we got coffee like a couple months ago, it's just like being able to connect like that. That's, I think that's one of the reasons people join EO, is because you're kind of on an island and you like, well, you don't understand what I'm talking about. And then you find someone that does, you're like, oh, hell yeah, let's talk about this. And so it helps, all of us kind of elevate into where we can go and not feel like we're the only ones feeling this stuff.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Ben.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Great conversation.
It was wild. It was quick.
So if you are in Nashville, if you are in Nashville, Tennessee, and you are an entrepreneur and you're looking to join community, you can visit eonashville.com to learn how 350 plus entrepreneurs get together every single month in a forum, and with 6 to 8 people, and really deeply connect, get to what we call the 5%, to really unlock some powerful decisions we all need to make in our lives and our businesses to go forward. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic rest of your week.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.